Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Proving Grounds, brought to you once again by Cage and Coco. We are in Game 2 of Cloud9 Amateur versus Team Liquid Academy, and man, oh man, Team Liquid Academy were looking good in that Game 1.
They made a statement, and they made it quite sound that they were the better team on the day, that their players were better man-to-man on the day, and so far, that day is yet to be done. So C9 Amateur has a chance to finish this up and at least try and make it a 3-game series. It's just a matter of how and when they can do that, because we're going into the second game. But let's go ahead and recap ourselves a little bit, as we have to remind ourselves why Jenkins is just so strong on this cannon.
Yeah, it's a really tough thing to deal with, right? When you have just so many different avenues to succeed and you don't find any of them. It just feels like it all boiled down to Jenkins. Came in, he did his job, and he was so dominant throughout the game, I should say, that there was no opportunity for recourse.
And the question then comes into play of the amateur versus academy teams, of like how quickly these players and these teams can adapt and change their conditions on the style within the games themselves, right? We've mentioned before, and I'll mention time and time again, both these teams play that same style of preferring to have a top-heavy player to carry them throughout these compositions and throughout these games. However, once we saw that it was really just C9 Amateur banging their head against a wall, with Jenkins just dominating them in that top side of the map, it took a very long time for them to get to another place where they were able to find picks, where they said, all right, we're going to invest in Breezy and we're going to invest into XU to get these picks, find these situations where people are overextending on TLA, and then being able to punish it for maximum output. But it just took too long. Jenkins was too far ahead, and the rest of the team that Team Liquid Academy was able to build up had that control of the side lanes and that patient pressure to look for those objectives at the proper times to punish C9 Amateur's hastiness to the maximum.
It was definitely a hard-fought game for Cloud9 Amateur, but unfortunately, it was just too out of control. This literally just feels like a Jenkins highlight reel that we're watching.
Yeah, it's a Jenkins highlight reel.
Honest.
I'm down for it.
It's just so much, and this final play came down to a 5v5 chase. It just showed how far ahead Team Liquid was at the time, and really how little Cloud9 Amateur had to do throughout the latter half of that game.
I'll have to put a tab on if we are able to get Jenkins for interview. If for his highlight reel, would he prefer Pentakill or KDA music for that reel? So we'll have to hold on to that a little later.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'd be down for it. I'm more of a Pentakill fan, but hopefully Jenkins is the same and we can really jam out to some good sessions. Though we're going to have to question ourselves on how quickly Team Liquid Academy can just jam out this second game. Because you mentioned during the break that C9 Amateur can get very spicy during those second games. And it's a curiosity of how quickly they can really flip the series and the momentum on Team Liquid Academy's heads. This was also pretty beautiful to watch. The fact that you get that as the ultimate just on the tail, and then that explosive shot from Tristana secures the kill and gets all the resets going for this final win to take this game home.
Yep, just clean play all around. Hopefully Team Liquid Academy can keep it going, because if they look this strong, if they continue to look this strong, they're going to be against probably little to no pressure throughout the rest of this tournament.
Oh, for sure. And until I'd say, well, maybe not maybe not tomorrow, but maybe next week they'll start running into some challenges, because then that's when you skip from best of threes to best of fives, and you get a lot more room of error in those situations. And a lot of these teams in the amateur circuit are more familiar with the best of five scenarios, where they have gotten to the proving grounds through those kind of tournament structures, and being there and having that experience can go a long way when it comes down to these final moments in the proving grounds. But we'll have to keep that on the back of our minds, as game 2 is just around the corner between Team Liquid Academy and C9 Amateur.
We're getting pretty close, and quite honestly, I'm excited to see what Cloud9 Amateur can pull out, because they can be very strong. We've seen what happens last week, and quite honestly, I think that there is still a chance that this series might just go all the way, and I'm curious to see whether or not Cloud9 Amateur have something else up their sleeves in order to make this work.
Now, would you agree with me that the avenue or the player that they would sort of be looking to find that game 3 potential in would be Captain Shrimps? Because he's a spicy player. He's the one that I feel like, even though he is a little bit more on the unique side of champion pools. It's that uniqueness and that versatility to play those different styles and those different champions that are very off meta that can really throw people off of their chairs and give him that advantage to try and look for those advantages.
I think beyond Singed Mid meme, it's still just so much in Captain Shrimp's hands, and also XU. I feel like if those two play together in a pair and they manage to actually rope in their bottom lane, then it's very possible that this is going to be a much stronger team. But all that force towards the top was not the right call. It just felt like it was not working. Armeo was always there to counter, and by the time they could actually get a clean 2v1, it was against Jenkins, who was already way too strong.
Yeah, of course. And it also gives a new area, right? If we're talking about changing that push of priority from the top lane to mid lane, it gives some more mid lane pressure for the rest of the team to try and find that assistance. For Breezy to also be unlocked. I was impressed by his recon during this first game, because even though they did struggle with a lot of that top lane pressure just overwhelming the rest of the map, they were able to find picks with his assistance of that recon. They were able to find those catches and help punish where they could against Team Liquid Academy. They were able to grab 5 to 6 kills, if my mind remains correct on that one, to where all of them were within participation of Mr. Breezy, except for that one catch that they were able to find on Harry in that bottom lane. So if with all that being said and done, that's another thing that we'd have to look to going into that draft, is saying, what tools are you going to give Breezy to help assist this mid-priority shift that you have to play into the second game of the series?
I mean, honestly, there's not a whole lot to change about the bot lane other than where Breezy is on the map, because the Rakan seemed like the perfect pick, right? You had the combination with Galio, as you were just talking about. He was involved in a lot of those picks, but he wasn't there early enough. He needed to be making those plays from about the 6-minute mark on. That first back that we see so often in the meta needs to happen earlier.
And we do see, as we have now finally hit into the draft, that there's a switch up of sides. Team Liquid Academy is now on blue side. C9 Amateur had selected red, so that gives them that counter pick capability to see if they can win out over on that top lane priority. It's difficult to change that mindset of having that stronger player of Speedo just suddenly start to play weak side, and making sure that he has that comfort of saying, we're going to hold on to that counter for you, and also for that mid lane. That's where that confidence might be able to come back and rally the rest of C9 Amateur together. And they can also prioritize safe lanes, see if they can at least give TL Academy one very strong pick, and then create that safe side for Breezy to unlock and then get the ball rolling for the rest of the team.
Mr. Coco the Dragon.
Hello.
I have a concern.
What's your concern, sir?
I've seen all of Cloud9 Amateur's bans of Aphelios, Trundle, and Jace, and I seem to notice a lack of Kennen in that pool there.
Well, unfortunately, Jenkins did not play Dr. Kennen, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
So I guess it wasn't a part of the prescription for this second game. So they're going to go in, say it was just a hiccup, nothing really happened, but we'll build a composition that can at least take care of it, right? The first pick that was grabbed by Team Liquid on that red side last time was Ezreal for Yon. Now it's switched up. Wixie is going to be the one on that safe lane for Ezreal, as Ziggs was that safe pick that was taken away from them. And then you've got Lee Sin immediately. They don't hesitate on this jungler prio pick anymore. They're making sure that they can save their priority and counter picks for those solo lanes.
More often than not, teams do like to pick Lee Sin in the red side opportunities, just because he does have a little more proximity to Baron, and also his rotations are a little stronger towards the top side. Now, looking at the other side, it looks like the Nocturne will be picked up again. I would expect this to be an Armeo pick once again, just because it is strong with Lee Sin, and also still allows the Jenkins-Armeo combo that we saw so expertly played last game.
I won't disagree with you on that one. I think it's just, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I'm seeing here from Team Liquid Academy. You sure have to agree with the exchange of the Ezreal and the Virus, but it is also another stable lane that can't be punished too severely. And both these teams now can start to look at choking down on that bottom lane for engagements and for those roaming supports. Rakan immediately taken away there from C9 Amateur. Though Breezy did well with it, Ayla can also be very efficient. Thresh is still something we'll have to keep addressed. The Leona was also very strong from Ayla as well. So there's a lot of things that you have to keep an eye on and keep out of the opportunities or these options for either of these teams to just punish any potential roams or objective setup that you leave your bot lane left on their own devices.
But at the very least, I do like this pickup from Speedo on the Gangplank. I was talking to Alk Battery, one of the other casters yesterday, as well as Smacks, and they were talking about how the Gangplank for Speedo might not be necessarily the strongest pick. He looked relatively good on it last week, but it is still something that he's working on and something that Speedo really needs to perfect if he's going to make it far in this tournament, especially against the likes of Jenkins Cannon.
Yeah, just like to revise ourselves with that last Gangplank performance, he did go 6-3-10, and he was a very strong player in his own right against AoE Esports, and it's a familiar matchup. He went up against Faisal's Kennen on that Gangplank, so running into familiar territory for himself is something that is where that red side counter pick is intended for, saying, look, we have now the tools to address this Kennen properly. We can neutralize this win condition that Team Liquid Academy has built for themselves, and we can look for conditions elsewhere. And heading into the second pick phase, that's where we can start to set up those win conditions, mid lane and that support. The two places that we've been talking about for the past 10 minutes on where C9 Amateur can look for those opportunities to get themselves back into this series.
And now it's up to Cloud9 Amateur to draft for the rest. I noticed the draft strategy for Team Liquid Academy was to ban away the mid, so really closing in on Captain Shrimp's champ pool means we have an extra chance for things to get extra interesting. As a few hovers are going around, Ayla is still considering a few things. I don't know if the Lulu's necessarily the right one. I feel like Leona still being available is pretty good for this composition, and really just any roaming support is going to work well for Team Liquid Academy.
Oh, block, blind. Okay. That's a good gauntlet thrown down, saying, all right, Captain Shrimps, your style, if you are picking something that is going to be very potent, is also going to be very mobile. His Xerath is very strong on Captain Shrimps, so he's sort of throwing the gauntlet down, saying, challenge me with this, I dare you. You're not going to try and pick this one up. The other one, too, is maybe the Victor or the Azir that could be grabbed as well. It's a curious option because both of those are much more late game style, and with the composition that C9 Amateur has already, you don't give a lane or an avenue of approach for XU to get the ball rolling early. So they have to address and say, instead of looking into these lanes, let's see if we can get XU online with this Galio again being picked up by Captain Shrimps.
I like it. It's a pretty strong lane matchup into Hayri, who really had a strong performance last week on this LeBlanc. As I recall, I believe he had like 5 kills in the first 15 minutes. So really strong play, and absolutely made Team Liquid Academy strong against Supernova in their series yesterday, or last week, I should say. So very strong composition draft by Team Liquid Academy. Once again, playing to their style, very evasive and very safe, versus Cloud9 Amateur, who are playing the, as you said, tried and true version of League of Legends.
This is something that also kind of reminisces that of Game 1, where at C9 Amateur, they have a lot of strong win conditions, but it is post-6. They need to get to that ultimate phase where they have all the tools available to start creating those ambitious plays and looking deep into the trenches of Team Liquid Academy, who has that same style of saying, we're going to beat you man-to-man, we're going to be able to dominate you in the laning phase, and then play it patiently. Play a style where we can take you over one person at a time, and then when none of you have any tools to fight back, we'll close this game out simple and clean. So it's a replication of Game 1. Some different members are on the board, but that is the mindset we're going to be going into this second game of the series. Because you've got some, I'd have to say, you've got to give Team Liquid Academy the benefit of the doubt on this one. Like, they have the history, they have the track record going into this series, and with Game 1 having already happened, and them doing just that, it's some recency bias as well.
It really is just such a strong showing from Team Liquid Academy as we get into Game 2 versus Cloud9 Amateur. And really, they just have so many comfort picks available that it feels like they're playing exactly the way they want to. And when Team Liquid plays the way they want to, they're a very impossible team to stop.
It's also a challenge of saying that there's no real teams at this moment, and C9 Amateur specifically can't challenge Team Liquid Academy to play more than one style. They know they can just roll over this tournament with just the raw manpower that Team Liquid Academy's skill sets have, and then take control and take the victory from here. It's a strong statement. It's a very big ego statement for sure, and there's really no reason for them not to do that. They're the first seed. They're the strongest Academy team going into the Proving Grounds, and making it to where it's saying we win man-to-man. We don't have to do anything unique. We don't have to really study the intricacies of your playstyle. We can just play our game and win no matter what you throw at us is a massive statement for them to play. But it's only 2 weeks into the Proving Grounds. They've yet to get to that second phase where the competition can get very powerful. And C9 Amateur can still be that hurdle for a lot of the amateur teams to struggle against that can really upset when you don't expect it.
It really is unexpected, but at the same time, you do have to think that it's a possibility, right? Because anything can happen in the Proving Grounds, and it feels like so far, even though this has been a by-the-books first 2 minutes, nothing spicy, there's still a possibility of upset.
Oh, of course. Like, sure, they didn't really get into playoffs too far in the previous Tier 1 tournament or Tier 2 tournament for amateur. But they've always had those interesting plays, and they've gone up against very strong teams, and they've challenged those teams to their play styles. And as the game sort of starts to pan out, once we get to these junglers to start challenging for those scuttles and looking for those initial resets, we can see if any of those recipes of disaster that C9 Amateur likes to cook up during the break can come into fruition fairly early on. Like we mentioned before, sure, XU has the fastest clear in the jungle, but you got to get to level 6 for the whole team to really make yourself feel online.
That's the hope so far. And looking at this top lane, it looks like Speedo has gotten a much better start so far. We'll be pushing the wave in against Jenkins, and especially on Gangplank, it's so much easier to farm, and you finally have a way of not just getting completely rolled in the early game.
Of course. And you have the corrupting potions and the biscuits
nice
as well, so any poke you take can be just chugged on back. Have a good healthy diet of food and a drink for yourself to stay in that lane for as long as possible and collect that gold. It also gives you the priority to try and challenge for these Rift scuttles, but I see here, it was Armeo that was able to get to the scuttle a little bit quicker, and it is Harry that has the inside track.
And Harry will be able to... Oh, Smite goes down, and I believe that was picked up by Armeo, so very well to secure that objective, and we'll be going to the bot side, so complete scuttle dominance coming in from the Spooky Ghost. Very well done by Team Liquid Academy.
Though I like where this is going for XU. Saying that, sure, I'm going to agree with you taking that double scuttle. I'm going to go ahead and take your Gromp instead. Grab that additional gold up there. And he also took the blue buff, because if I recall correctly, it was only a red buff there taken away from Armeo.
I believe so.
My eyes might be deceiving me here. I do need to go to the eye doctor this week, so that schedule's yet to be chosen. But it's a nice adaptation from XU to say, I'm going to have this top priority. Jenkins is pretty low. We have that execute capability. There's no exhaust to try and challenge it. I always love the early dives, as you can tell, but also the fact that you can go ahead and clear your top side as well if this doesn't look as appetizing.
Well, you can see XU has been spotted out by Jenkins. He will go over the wall, and this dive is happening. There's the Tempest. There's the kick. The Sonic lands, and that's a kill.
Oh.
First blood for XU.
I was scared for a little moment for XU because he had to use that flash to get in and get the palm strike down for him to get the slow and land that resonating strike and the sonic wave. So a great call out for him, and he gets away with just a couple bars of health to spare. And now that reset from Speedo answers the TP recall from Jenkins, and all of that neutralizes the lane. Speedo doesn't lose an inch or a fraction of economy here, while that first blood goes handedly to XU on C9 Amateur.
Very well played. This is the start that Cloud9 Amateur were looking for, but Armeo, pathing down towards the bot side, will be spotted out by this ward. Oh, actually goes around it. Very well played.
All right.
And Cloud9 Academy, still none the wiser.
Keep the Enigma rolling, 27 CS for himself. He was able to snoop around that bottom jungle for a little longer because XU spent that time on the top side. But we see that recall. There was a ward that just died there. Jan just saw that the ward had dissipated. Says, okay, all right, well, all right. We're going to hold back for a little bit. I don't want you to catch me out and make me force a summoner a little earlier than I want to. So now that good play from Breezy and Wixie challenging that greedy recall from Jan and Ayla keeps them in this lane a little longer.
And that's just sort of the advantage that they need to build up so far. But when we talk about advantages, we have to talk about Jan getting a little bit ahead in terms of the CS, just because the constant turret pressure and the way that Ayla's been able to pressure Breezy off the wave.
The other thing, too, is that C9 Amateur isn't too worse for wear in that bot side. Yeah, you can go down a couple CS at the moment, but you're stocking up for that late game. Instead of going for a Dorn Shield or a Dagger for this initial start, he went with that Tear the Goddess to have that scaling so he can get that mana unit a little bit faster.
Whoa,
kills.
nice kick.
Harry.
Harry getting low, but will manage to get away from that. XU, this is the early game I was hoping for from last game. And Cloud9 Amateur, they're finally online, and it's because XU is finding the paths that he needs.
Yes, and with this, Speedo is able to clear out that top side, and now they can press Armeo, who does not look like he is in a happy spot.
Going for the Grump steal, does manage to get it. The Grump is down, he flashes away, and that's going to be XU managing to pressure again on the Team Liquid Academy.
It is an ultimate of a heroic entrance at the cost of the flash from Armeo, but it is immediately on those level 6 ticks from the solo laners. During the draft, we mentioned it's not about if XU can get to level 6, it's about when the team can, and thankfully that solo lane XP is able to get there a little bit quicker, and they can start oppressing Armeo faster than Team Liquid Academy has expected. They just don't have the tools at the moment to try and challenge out any of these roams, because with the pressure from Galio, at least against a LeBlanc who does struggle with wave clear, Galio can challenge that. He can keep the lane a little bit neutral at the cost of some of his life to make sure he can answer these calls and answer these aggressive plays with XU and Speedo who are trying to look for this constant oppression against Armeo.
But as we talked about the constant oppression, we also have to talk about how XU is pathing towards the bot side, and this dragon now spawned in will be able to go over to one of those teams, and I feel like both of them are looking for it, right? You have the bot lane of TLA still in the area. Even though Ayla was roaming towards the mid, he's coming back down, and maybe this is a play for Cloud9.
And Cloud9 Amateur smelled out the roam from Ayla as well. Breezy motioned up to try and look for any scouting potential, and seeing that that thresh was not there, allows the rest of C9 Amateur to go ahead and pull back their advantage for just a slight moment. Say, all right, don't make anything too hasty. We could get punished fairly quickly here from both Ayla and Armeo, who were left unaccounted for. And with this pressure, this is exactly what C9 Amateur wants. Yes, it doesn't feel great at the moment in this bottom lane specifically, but keeping this lane neutral and keeping it to a point where you force Team Liquid Academy to not challenge you at that man-to-man pressure and play the team style, that composition, the draft that you had made in this game too, does level the playing field a little bit for C9.
I think the early plays have really helped out a lot, as we do see we're heading into the 9-minute mark so far. Now Armeo pathing towards the top side. Might just look to get Speedo, but Speedo has backed and doesn't have the teleport, so it's going to be a Rift Herald start instead, as Hayri is also rotated over. I feel like XU probably doesn't have a way to get into this fight, but might try anyway. Won't land the Sonic Wave, and I think he just has to back out of this.
This is a bit greedy from XU, I have to say. This is one of those places where you have to cut your losses, but Speedo and Captain Shrimps sort of routing themselves towards that objective baited him into that mindset, where if you look at the rest of the map, you saw Ayla in a great position to try and scout anyone out looking for that dragon as a response. And to that end, C9 Amateur doesn't have the tools or the capability to quickly take the dragon in time and then dip out with any challenge from Team Liquid Academy. So it was hesitant. It was an incorrect call from C9 Amateur to try and challenge it, but Ayla had blocked off that other answer that C9 Amateur was trying to look for.
Without that back, Cloud9 Amateur won't be able to go immediately for the dragon. They are pathing XU down this direction to get the Scuttler.
I don't like these resets from Yon and Ayla. This opens up the dragon for themselves for C9.
Oh, it might. Very much so, but you can also see a reset coming in from Breezy as well as X. No, XU doesn't actually finish that. Wixie is under the turret, and mid lane continues to fight pretty evenly as the wave is still in the middle. And this is just going to be a solo from XU to take the dragon.
There you go. Add some potential communication with the recall coming in from Breezy and Wixie saying, all right, we need to figure out where that bot lane is. And as soon as that call came through saying, look, they reset, we can take this dragon, that immediate cancel of the recall happens, and XU gets the solo dragon for himself for free without any challenge from Team Liquid Academy. And he can now then route up to this top side. He has the camps, go Gromp to Wolves, check the Krugs for a little bit, but then be able to hover Jenkins and Speedo on this top side to make sure nothing cheeky happens with this Nocturne and Kennen combo.
Well, Harry's getting a little cheeky by going into the jungle here, scouting out the vision and making sure that this might be available for a possible invade or gank setup from Team Liquid Academy. So whether or not Armeo goes there, right, Harry takes quite a bit, and Captain Shrimps, does he look to go in? I don't think so. He only has the backup of Speedo's ult if he decides to do it.
Yeah, the amount of damage that Captain Shrimps just did to Harry gave XU some hungry eyes as he's now hungering over to this mid lane, seeing if he can scout out any potential greed that Harry or Armeo might be looking for. does cause a little bit of a stall for TL Academy to lick their wounds and go for that reset. But there's no TP for them to catch up, so Captain Shrimps might be able to get some damage onto these blades, or see if he can try and challenge the wave management a little bit more in this mid lane to open up for these side lane advantages and see if they can find a pick or a challenge onto the next objective that XU is looking for.
Don't you just hate it when you walk into a bush and suddenly there's Jenkins doing half of your HP casually? Speedo forced to back up here and is actually taking even more. Is going to get stunned up and I don't think has the orange. That's going to be a flash in, and Jenkins gets the solo kill. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Wixie and Breezy under pressure as the Paranoia comes down and the teleport coming in from the mid laner. That's going to be Captain Shrimps trying to get a taunt off, but instead gets a hook for himself and will manage to back out safely. Rick Herald has been dropped, might not get a charge. Well, actually, it's going to get that charge, and Team Liquid Academy, they find themselves a couple of plates, maybe even the turret, and they're going to get that solo kill on top.
Yeah, what a great turn of events here for Team Liquid Academy. I was mentioning before that XE was trying to path and prioritize for that top side and make sure nothing happened on that top end, but then the aggression and the shift from Team Liquid Academy, who started to apply pressure with that Herald to that bottom side of the map, diverts that attention and gives Jenkins the opening for him to punish. And with all of that being said and done, that scramble of the top side into this Rift Herald play gives a maximum output, giving them a 2k gold lead to work with for the next few moments.
Ooh, XU pathing towards the bot side as a ton of damage goes on to Eon, flashes away, but it's not going to be enough to kick Dragon's Rage onto Ayla, and will be a double kill for XU.
And a wonderful punish as well from XU to reply to the overstay coming in from the bottom lane of Team Liquid Academy. Jan and Ayla playing greedy, looking for that first brick, and unable to find it with the defenses of Wixie and Breezy, allows enough time for XU and Captain Shrimps to recall and reply in time. So this is, again, just that nice reset coming in from the jungle and mid lane of C9 Amateur, punishing that overstay. That's a huge consequence for that first seed.
Very well done from Cloud9 Amateur, and this is what was going well in the first game, is finding these picks in the mid game. The difference between game 1 and game 2 of this series, though, is Cloud9 Amateur had a great early game. Speedo's been able to play this pretty well, and until that solo kill, was actually ahead in this lane. So very well played by Cloud9 Amateur. They just need to continue following up when we know that this team struggles to find out a way to close games when they have a lead.
The lead they must continue to find. As with this rotation and this new assignment for both of these teams, mostly Wixie and Breezy now chilling out in the mid lane, saying, all right, we've got our side lane pressure. We can throw Captain Shrimps on the side lane to address any sense of pressure or pushing that will be coming in from Team Liquid Academy, as Jan is able to take this first brick for themselves.
Well done.
To that end. This is also a question of how will Team Liquid Academy address in kind, because it is a little bit more confident for them to say, all right, we've got the first brick. Now it is a lot more space for either Jenkins or Harry to work with on that side lane pressure, where C9 Amateur doesn't have that luxury, and you have so many openings at the bottom lane to find flanks, like this one just now.
Oh, Ayla getting a little bit ahead. Breezy, though, able to tank up so much damage, but gets caught out, and that's going to be a kill for Eon. A very quick pick onto Breezy. He tanked out as much as he could, but in the end, he was not Braum enough.
Wonderful pun there. But Breezy, he's respawning in 10 seconds, and you see the Dragon is spawning in 25, so he might be able to get to that objective in time and try and assist with the setup, but it is going to be a little bit of a daunting task for them because of how much pressure that has already been acquired from Team Liquid Academy with just finding that flank and that gank alone, to make sure that they have the inside track for this river, they have the mid lane priority, and they have the flank option as well with Harry on this bottom side. So they just need to hold it and try and challenge. It looks like with Armeo's positioning and with that recall coming in from Harry, he does have the TP to try and hold for it. But that MIA from Speedo, the gangplank coming into rally, might just thwart TLA away from this objective.
It should be noted that Speedo's only level 10 right now, so only has the level 1 cannon barrage available. Cloud9 Amateur, they're trying to go in. Ayla forced to flash away, but the Sonic Wave is enough. XU finds a pick and now goes on to Eon as the Paranoia comes down, and actually XU goes down. Slicing Maelstrom onto 3 members in the back, though. That's going to be pretty strong as the hero's entrance tries to split up the team, and Jenkins goes down. This dragon fight's getting chaotic, Coco, and I feel like Cloud9 Amateur love the chaos.
They love the chaos, but they also love the fact that they got out of a Jenkins slicing Maelstrom with all heads accounted for. XU had already been executed on that front side. We can go ahead and look at this once again. This is that engagement that they were looking for here from C9 Amateur to get that quick catch, but it wasn't onto the right member. They wanted Yon, and XU gets greedy for it, but he just throws himself into an awkward position. But while that happened, we're about to go back to live as Harry takes a solo kill against Speedo.
Once again, Speedo just found out. Jenkins still on the death screen, so had to find someone else to do it. Cloud9 Amateur, they just can't find the right place to put their top laner, and Speedo gets found out once again.
To quickly revise that replay that we had to dip away from, it was that TP from Jenkins in tandem with Armeo's ultimate to block out the vision of that teleport coming in. He finds the flank, he finds the engagement. However, Breezy's exhaust was the one that canceled out all that damage, and they're able to trade that fight and neutralize the map state out once again. Jumping back to live, 17 minutes into the game, Speedo gets picked off by Harry, and it is back to the Dragon to see if C9 Amateur can challenge once more.
Looks like they are starting it up after taking the ward, so this is known to Team Liquid Academy, but without the paranoia, it's just so tough to contest this. Harry's gonna try, though, and get it? No.
Oh, no. It is Ezreal.
It was Wixie. So that was well played by Cloud9 Amateur. They knew the ults were down. They went for the Dragon at just the right time.
Well played. And Yon able to get away on the Thresh Express just in the nick of time, as it is a Rift Herald play that is being called in reply from Team Liquid Academy. We know that there's all that bot lane pressure. Speedo is on that bottom side with the gangplank. And there's no Captain Shrimp's Galio accounted for on the top side. Gives him that pressure for Armeo to go ahead and take that with the assistance of Jenkins and Yon reinforcing the defenses. As Harry now is punishing the greediness, or at least attempting to punish the greediness of XU, getting that red buff, but no, more fights happening in the mid lane.
A lot of pain going in onto Wixie, who goes down. Jenkins able to get that up, but there's XU under pressure against 3, and that's 2 members of Cloud9 Amateur caught out of position.
And you look at how the rest of the members of C9 Amateur are, the ones that are on the board still at least, and it is Speedo and Captain Shrimps on these side lanes that don't have the tools to try and collapse down and look for this mid lane engagement anymore. Captain Shrimps is not in range whatsoever, and the fact that Harry and Armeo are able to kill both Wixie and XU before a TP would even be viable is how quickly TLA can just swing these favors back into their side of the court with that 33, almost 34,000 gold on the team in total.
They just have so much that they can use in order to get there. It feels like Armeo's Nocturne pick has been so clutch this entire series, just finding paranoia after paranoia. And with someone as mobile as Harry, it's so easy to get picks like this.
And you don't have like the domination from Jenkins this time around either, but you find the capability to shut off the information being led. Like I said, with the TPs and the fact that you can kill very quickly these squishy targets of C9 Amateur. It's just a simple execute. Pop the ultimate, bring him down, and when the lights turn back on, there's no one left alive for C9 Amateur to try and come back with a reply.
Yeah, it's just so difficult to find out ways to counter against a lack of vision. The only real way to deal with that is to have more vision, but it's such a difficult task against Team Liquid Academy, who know how to control zones, and they also have such a great team comp at collapsing and being together that Cloud9 Amateur just can't find a way to get into this game.
And if we want to go deeper into sort of how that Nocturne can even start to cause more issues for these amateur teams, and for C9 Amateur in specific, it forces you to be proactive and forces you to constantly track all members of Team Liquid Academy, because if you don't have those heads counted and you don't have that constant communication flushing in saying, we think we're going, they're going for this attack, we think we're going for this play, then you get caught with your hands bare and laid open for Team Liquid Academy to take those kills away from you. So forward with that, that's a second turret falling here in this bottom lane, and Team Liquid Academy has so much room and breathing space for themselves to try and just control and moderate these side lanes and look for those constant flanks of shutting off the lights, getting a kill in mid, and then finding that oppression again once the lights come back on.
And with that, Team Liquid Academy continues their domination. 5,000 gold in the lead, Baron available. They have the option to go for that objective, but still risky without a single pick. And Cloud9 Amateur, they are pathing towards that direction and do have some vision down on the river.
The only issue here for C9 Amateur at the moment is they haven't cashed in just yet. They're still struggling on getting those second items for themselves. Yes, mythics have been acquired for 4 out of the 5 members, But we're still looking for a Mana Mune or a Mana here from Wixie. We're still looking for that Stare Axe coming in from Speedo and XU respectively. So there's not a lot of stats here at the moment for C9 Amateur to work with if they wanted to make plays. So it's just a question of how quickly they can get there, when that checkpoint will be passed, and if they will be able to find that map state to at least apply that new power spike that they're able to acquire. Where Team Liquid Academy has been working with that acquisition for the past few minutes. They have that capability to look for those kills with the multiple items that they've been able to accrue and able to have this vision with, where Ayla has been doing a phenomenal job on this Thresh with controlling these avenues in the jungle.
He absolutely is everywhere he needs to be, and you talked about the map state needing to change. The dragon is spawning up in 30 seconds. Cloud9 Amateur, this would be their third and put them on sole point for Team Liquid Academy. It's just a run-of-the-mill first Infernal Dragon. So whoever gets that dragon, it's a small advantage, but it is something, and Cloud9 Amateur might look to capitalize on how much pressure Team Liquid Academy is putting by.
Yeah, and just botch the first dragon for Team Liquid. That's a totally fine sacrifice for themselves to make. See if they can get multiple turrets on this top side, or at least cash in on some extra economy to help get to those power spikes. And look for those fights around the top end, where Baron is much more of a threat for themselves in the next few minutes. Thankfully for both these teams, it's not something that either of the teams can really sneak the dragon sneak the Baron, just yet, because they don't have massive tank capability, or like tank burning capability. Ezreal is going to struggle to try and burn it down, even with XU's and Speedo's assistance. Same thing goes for Team Liquid Academy. It's going to be a slow and steady Baron, and because of that, these teams need to play extra cautious, play extra safe, so they don't lose members to allow that to happen for either of the teams.
And at this point, you also have to worry about how the carries are going to be positioned in these fights, because Cloud9 Amateur, you saw right there, Wixie has to stay as far away from Harry as possible, and Armeo, he can just be anywhere he needs to be. But on the other side, XU, always the possibility for the insect, and Captain Shrimps can always follow up. So it comes down to Yeon and Wixie just able to stay safe, and if they can do that, then they're going to be the ones that win out the game.
You got to keep a close eye on them then. Put those little markers above those ADCs. Where will they be? Where will they be caught if they fall? Who is it and where is it, right? Because it also is very crucial on where those deaths do come into play. If you are dying right next to the Baron and the rest of the team is right there with you, you can stall out the Baron a little bit more because everyone's available. But if you fall on the offside in the side lane and no one's available to try and answer for that Baron, it could just be a massive power play going over to either Team Liquid or Academy's side, or C9 Amateur side, as the slow and steady pacing of Team Liquid Academy has again loomed over the Summoner's Rift.
So we do seem to have a bit of a stall, as you were talking about. Both teams trying to play it as safe as possible, not going for a Baron unnecessarily and pushing out the side lanes so that there's a favorable position. But I just want to talk about for a quick second how much Cloud9 Amateur, even though they aren't ahead in this game or even in this series, they look like such a different team than they did just several months ago. I feel like their improvement has been completely deserved. They have played very well since Risen, and the fact that they're even putting this much of a fight against Team Liquid Academy shows how much this team has been doing over the last few months.
And all of these players have quite the story behind themselves as well, and it all comes to us into that search of trying to make themselves to that next level, seeing if Team Liquid Academy, who has pretty much an interesting position of that, is might have to hold on to that narrative point in the back of our minds for a little moment. There is a fight in our hands.
Captain Shrimp's going down to about halfway, almost a fourth right there, but not enough damage to seal the deal as Team Liquid Academy now find their sights onto Gangplank Speedo under pressure from Armeo, but no one can follow up, so he gets out as well. Paranoia burned, and that's going to be another ult down. But a hook lands, and Speedo once again under pressure. Breezy tries to dissuade and does manage to keep his team alive. So Cloud9 Amateur, health bars are low, but they do stay up, and they keep almost all of their ultimates except for the True Shot Barrage,
which is going to be up in the next few seconds because of how low and quick that cooldown can be with the additional ability haze coming in from the Trinity Force that Wixie has acquired, as well as the Mirror Mana that he has in his back pocket as well. So he'll be totally fine waiting that one. And with nothing else exhausted, you don't even need to use TPs, because it also took a lot out of Team Liquid Academy to try and hunt for those picks. So they all reset, lick their wounds, get back into the vision control game, and try and find those picks once more with Ayla and Harry running the spearhead of that expedition. Though it does also give that extra time for a double challenge or a double threat as it is with Dragon spawning in the next 90 seconds. It would be soul point for C9 Amateur, so Team Liquid Academy has to keep that in the back of their heads and say, let's prioritize that Dragon first. We still know it's going to be a little while until C9 Amateur can really try and burn out this Baron or burn through these waves fairly quickly. Because even though those second items have now cashed in, it's the damage items that are going to be coming in from C9 Amateur that could cause real trouble here for Team Liquid Academy. As I don't know about you, Cage, but that Gangplank, it can get very scary if you are forced into a congested situation with Team Liquid Academy's composition being very squishy.
Oh, and especially with how many resources that Cloud9 Amateur are giving to Gangplank, I feel like Speedo is going to be a terror as this game goes on. But as we talked about in Game 1, Cloud9 Amateur sometimes has problems closing out games. So the longer this goes on, it doesn't necessarily mean an advantage as Ayla lands a hook, and it doesn't amount to much, but this does mean Dragon pressure for Team Liquid Academy.
Yeah, the poke from both Jan and Ayla on this Varus Thresh combo has been keeping C9 Amateur at bay and hiding them behind their jungle walls. They haven't had any real opportunities to try and stick their toes out and test the waters of the river just yet for the past, I have to say, 5-6 minutes now. And it gives Team Liquid Academy that luxury of, look, side lane pressure again for Armeo, hovering this bottom dragon spawn with Jan and Ayla taking care of that mid lane management. And with everyone then resourced to that top side for C9 Amateur to try and push away any lethal potential that comes in from Jenkins and Harry, and those resources are misplaced and gives Team Liquid Academy this next dragon. And though it is a little bit of a bitter taste in the mouths of C9 Amateur, they can still say it's only the second dragon. Yes, it's double Infernal, but we can wait that out for another 5 minutes until it is that final third soul point challenge for both of the teams. And we are truly ready with that third item cash in and with ourselves at a very comfortable position to try and look for those 5v5 team fights.
Oh, Harry did use both of the dashes, but manages to get out of there. Speedo not having the CC available in order to stop A LeBlanc from getting away. But I have to ask you, Coco, as this game goes on, I have to think about the scaling for both of these team compositions. XU, meanwhile, before I make that point, will land a kick down, and Ayla's in trouble, forced to flash over the wall. Cloud9 Amateur trying to go on Armeo, who's now alone. Harry in the bush is a scary LeBlanc. As we do see on the backside, Yeon trying to go onto Captain Shrimps and the slicing Maelstrom in the main fight. So much damage, and Cloud9 Amateur are out of sorts. 1 kill already, 2 kills down, 3 to follow, and XU is on the wrong side of the map. Breezy trying to run away from Team Liquid Academy's complete slaughter, but it's not going to be enough. The teleport comes in, and XU goes down to Jenkins. So 4 kills found from basically nowhere. Team Liquid Academy finally find the way to break open the game.
What a phenomenal catch there from Team Liquid Academy to conglomerate all of C9 Amateur into that kill zone and then rip them apart where no member could try and assist one another. And Jenkins, with that slicing Maelstrom once again, as you pointed out, be able to punish them immaculately. And all this started off of XU trying to see if he could look for an engagement onto Ayla. Then it's that congestion once again, putting him into this kill zone where they cannot escape either side, and there are pick potentials from both flanks as well. And with that catch, making sure Captain Shrimps can't assist the rest of the team, Jenkins flies in with the slicing Maelstrom and is able to drop everyone within execution range for Harry and for Armeo to do their work and finish up this absolute ace and dominating fight for Team Liquid Academy.
It looked really close at first. Cloud9 Academy, they thought they had the advantage, but Team Liquid, they find a way, and they managed to find 4 kills and a Baron out of that. This might just be the death push.
This could be a final nail in the coffin here with this Baron power play for themselves. Very close to a 10,000 gold lead, sitting at 9,000 at the moment. A lot of that. Ooh, XU trying to find that flank on Dion, but Ayla's there with the Thresh Express once again to get him out with the safety of the Lantern.
And with that, Team Liquid Academy continued their push towards the top side this time, and Cloud9 Amateur trying to find any pick they can. It's just not going to happen at this point. The vision so much in Team Liquid Academy's favor, and once again, just the draft. XU takes almost all of his health, and I didn't quite see what happened, but it was crazy.
A lot of damage from Harry and Jan's poke that's been coming out from this LeBlanc and this Varus. With that, they're able to throw off the defenses of C9 Amateur. They could try and peek their heads in and try and find this inhibitor in the mid lane. It looks like that's what they're going for. So, Amateur has to make a choice. Will they try and push away Jenkins, or are they going to try and challenge this inhibitor? They can't decide, and they start to lose both objectives here for Team Liquid Academy to take for themselves.
With that, Team Liquid Academy, they don't really have any tough choices to make. They keep Jenkins in the top. They keep 4 members mid ready to go to the top. And it's just simple. Armeo also pushing out the bottom, so a 3-1-1 working excellently. In Cloud9 Amateur, they have nothing to do against this team.
Don't have the front line to try and look for those engagements. They don't have the damage to clear out these waves with the Baron empowerment that comes through from Team Liquid Academy. With that, there's just a few moments left for this Baron power play to finish through. And Team Liquid wants to end it here and now. They don't want to waste this power play to a full exhaustion, because they know they have the manpower to take this. They know they have the damage to take out these members and push them off these Nexus turrets. It's a matter of corralling these minions up and getting to that stage. They're here. Super Minion Wave and Baron Empowerment is here. First Nexus is down. This is the end.
And this is the final fight. There's the damage onto Yeon, but he gets kicked away. Unlucky as Armeo slays Wix, and that's going to be Yeon on a rampage as Cloud9 Amateur crumbles to the might of the top Amateur and Academy team. Team Liquid Academy, in a dominating fashion, take this series 2-0.
And with that, this was the expected outcome for this series, a 2-0 domination from Team Liquid Academy. But hats off to C9 Amateur for that early game performance from XU and Breezy and the rest of the team, to be honest. In that second game, they were able to find those early advantages, find those catches to get XU online and give them that confidence to really try and struggle and sort of choke out any resources away from Armeo on Team Liquid Academy. But it just wasn't enough. The oppression of the side lanes that Team Liquid Academy were able to find to slow the game down, to look for this pressure, and we can just start it off from the top here, because this is how they got the ball rolling to get XU online.
It was a really nice dive coming in, and it was even telegraphed from Cloud9 Academy. The board was there and everything was ready. This play as well, very well played by Cloud9 Academy. It's just about making that work as the game goes on. But Team Liquid, they found a way out, and this fight, I think, turned a lot of things around.
I think this was the fight that definitely turned the game to a stall mode, right? Mm-hmm. Because the flank coming in from Jenkins forces the snowballing potential from C9 Amateur at this moment in time to halt, to almost never exist because of how much he's able to push away. Yes, he dies, but it also makes it to where they can't challenge for the dragon, and the management of the waves at that time was in Team Liquid's favor. They could create the freezes, they could create a place where they could gather resources properly, and then there was this pick here where it's just turn the lights off, look for those quick picks to get those items earlier and be able to shut down any carry potential coming in from C9 Amateur, and then grant it to yourself. Lights are back on, XU doesn't have the resources or the members around him to try and look for anything more, to reply to the aggression that Team Liquid Academy dished out.
It really dominant play coming in from Team Liquid Academy throughout both of these games. It just feels like even when they were on the back foot, they still had cards to play, and that's just what you expect from a top-tier team like Team Liquid Academy.
Yeah, and it only takes a couple fights, right? Like, yes, it does make the game feel slower when it is just a few fights here and there, and it's difficult to try and figure out when that fight will happen because of how safe both these teams are playing. But it then comes that patient waiting game of who's able to find the first pick, who pulls the trigger first, and do they find the trigger and get the kill or even the advantage onto the right member. And it was Team Liquid Academy that constantly found the upper hand in all of those fights. Ayla had played spectacularly on this Thresh. Jan was in a perfect position on this Virus every single time, able to look for those catches with the corrupting chains and then be able to get those executes and make sure that C9 Amateur could never play as the full 5 ever.
It was just so tough, and Cloud9 Amateur, there's nothing to do against the might of Jenkins Cannon, which, I'm going to mention it, not banned either game, and both games it won. So take a look at that stats team. That's something to take note of.
Yeah, that bumps, I believe that bumps Cannon's win rate now to 66%, as it has appeared 3 times now, twice in the hands of Jenkins, and a phenomenal start to boot on that as well. So with all that done and dusted, it's sort of a look back on what are now the goals here for Team Liquid Academy moving forward, right? They are the first seed. They need to be that dominating force and really prove themselves. And sure, Jenkins has already been there. He's been on the LCS stage. But what about everyone else? What about Jan? What about Armeo, who has sort of been flickering in and out between both the LCS and the Academy scene. And I feel like we can get all of those questions answered here in just a couple moments.
In fact, you brought up Jan, and I'm glad you did, because we actually have him on the line for an interview. Jan, congratulations and hello on that 2-0 win. Very well played by you. How are you feeling right now? Just quick check to make sure you can hear us.
Okay. Hopefully he can. I believe I can't hear him, so get that figured out.
Oh,
there he is. Hello,
awesome.
Jan.
How are you feeling after that amazing and very well played 2-0?
Honestly, it was just farming for me. It was pretty boring. I'm gonna be honest. It was pretty clean gameplay just from us. Just played the map well.
Very well played though. And I got to say, on that Varus pick, you looked pretty strong. Is there something that makes that Varus so versatile, and something that, why is it such a strong pick in the current meta?
I just feel like it just does everything. Utility and just poke. It's pretty strong.
Yep. Fair enough.
Well, let me ask you a little bit more about just the journey that Team Liquid Academy is on through the Proving Grounds. As it's being the first seed, you are in a position where being the strongest, you can test a lot of the strength of the current uprising amateur team. So far, how do you think the amateur teams have been doing in this tournament so far? And has there been any big improvements in the scene?
Well, for the scene, at least amateur, I played last year. I think it improved a lot. But for the matches from academy to amateur, they've been doing pretty good. They've actually been contesting a lot of the teams.
Where do you think is the biggest highlight? Like, which position do you think has made the most improvement from top to bot?
From amateur.
Yeah, from amateur.
Not really sure. I think they just all got better.
All got better?
I like that. Well-rounded. Carries is like the same for me.
Awesome. So a little bit of improvement from AD carries, but overall a pretty big improvement from everyone across the board. That's an astonishing improvement for amateur itself, and gives a lot of potential for these players looking forward into their careers. And I was going to ask Jenkins, but we got you. Even though it felt like a farming fest for yourself, if you could pick a song or any kind of band, Pentakill or KDA, for your highlight reel, what would it be?
No clue. I'm gonna be honest.
No clue?
I'll probably pick Pentakill because it's probably more hype, I assume.
More hype? I'm down for that. I'm always a fan of Pentakill, but awesome. Thank you so much, Jan, and congratulations on the day.
Thank you.
Definitely a confident 2-0, and I feel like you saw a lot from there. Like Jan, he just feels like he farmed all game, but I feel like his positioning was definitely understated throughout that. He was always safe, and he always found a way to fight throughout that game. So Team Liquid Academy, they're still strong contenders, and there's a reason why they're the first seed.
I do feel a little bit sorry for him being stuck on Varus duty and Ezreal duty all the time, because even though it is currently the most efficient way at this current moment, it doesn't let him highlight his skills. And I think Jan is one of those players who is just on the precipice of getting onto an LCS team, and we're just looking for maybe some Samira or Kai'Sa plays here coming into the next week for him to really make a statement here. So I'm excited to see if he's able to pick that up as well. But that done and dusted here for us for the first series. I'm excited as C9 is still on the docket somehow, Cage.
Yeah, how did that happen? Cloud9 Amateur on the lower bracket, going to be facing off against 100 Thieves next to try to make it back up to the top. We'll see how that goes in just a little bit. Stay tuned.
Verizon believes everyone deserves the best. That's why we start with 5G from America's most reliable network.
Verizon 5G is next level.
Then give families plans to mix and match, so you only pay for what you need starting at $35.
You get so much more than this, a great network.
And offer the best in entertainment on select unlimited plans, like Disney+, Hulu, and ESPN+, as well as Discovery+, with a Galaxy S21 Plus 5G when you buy one. There's no reason to settle for less than the best. Only from Verizon.